Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Today I'm going to read The Mastery of Destiny. There's not too many chapters left, so I'm only going to do 2 today. Before I start, please make sure you hit that like button to help me. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm going to be uploading a lot of content. And share if this is anything that someone you might know might use to help their lives. If you got anything out of my work, light bulbs, epiphanies, connections of dots, please consider supporting my work. It helps me continue doing this. I live in a communist state and still have not found an actual job. Even though this is one of my many missions, it is free because I am a service to others, but helping those less fortunate than you is always helpful. So I thank you with much gratitude and appreciation. So today we're going to cover cultivation of concentration. Let's see what this is about. Concentration, or the bringing of the mind to a center and keeping it there, is vitally necessary to the accomplishment of any task. It is father of thoroughness and the mother of excellence. As a faculty, it is not an end in itself, but it is an aid to all faculties, all work, not a purpose in itself. It is yet a power which serves all purposes. Like stream in mechanics, it is a dynamic force in the machinery of the mind and the functions of life. The faculty is a common possession through, and though in its perfection, it is rare, just as will and reason are common. Possessions, though a perfectly poised will and comprehensive reason, are rare possessions, and the mystery which some modern mystical writers have thrown around it is entirely superfluous. Every successful man, in whatever direction his success may lie, practices concentration, though he may know nothing about it as a subject of study. Every time one becomes absorbed in a book or a task, or is wrapped in devotion or a studiousness in duty, concentration in a greater or lesser degree is brought into play. Many books purporting to give instructions or on concentration make its practice and acquisition an end in itself. Then there is no sure nor swifter way to its destruction. The fixing of the eyes upon the tip of the nose, upon a doorknob, a picture, a mystical symbol, or a portrait of a saint, or the centering of the mind upon the navel, the pineal gland, or some imaginary point in space. I have seen all these methods seriously advised in works on this subject. With the object of acquiring concentration is like trying to nourish the body for merely moving the jaw, as in the act of eating, without taking food. Such methods prevent the end at which they aim. They lead towards dispersion and not concentration, towards weakness and imbecility, rather than towards power and intelligence. I have met those who have squandered by these practices what measure of concentration they at first possessed, and have become the prey of a weak and wandering mind. Concentration is an aid to the doing of something. It is not the doing of something in itself. A latter has no value in and of itself, but only insofar as it enables us to reach something which we could not otherwise reach. In like manner, concentration is that which enables the mind to accomplish with ease that which it would be otherwise impossible to accomplish. But of itself, it is a dead thing and not a living accomplishment. Concentration is so interwoven with the uses of life that it cannot be separate from duty, and he who tries to acquire it apart from his task His duty will not only fail, but will diminish and not increase. His mental control and executive capacity, and so render himself less and less fit to succeed in his undertakings. And the task of the hour is all the means for the cultivation of concentration, whether that task be acquiring of divine knowledge or the sweeping of a floor without resorting to methods which have no practical bearing on life. For what is concentration but the bringing of well-controlled mind to the doing of that which has to be done? He who does his work in an aimless, a hurried, or a thoughtless manner, and resorts to his artificial concentration methods, to his doorknob, his picture, or nasal extremity, in order to gain that which he imagines to be some kind of mystical power, but which is a very ordinary and practical quality, though he may drift towards insanity. And I knew one man who became insane by these practices. He will not increase in steadiness of mind. The great enemy of concentration, and therefore all skill and power, is wavering, wandering, undisciplined mind. And it is in overcoming that this concentration is acquired. A scattered and undisciplined army would be useless. To make it effective in action and swift in victory, it must be solidly concentrated and masterfully directed. Scattered and diffused thoughts are weak and worthless. Thoughts marshaled, commanded, and directed upon a given point are invincible. Confusion, doubt, and difficulty give way before their masterly approach. Concentrated thought enters largely into all successes and informs all victories. There is no more secret about its acquirement than about any other acquisition, for it is governed by the underlying principle of all development, namely practice. To be able to do a thing, you must begin to do it and keep on doing it until the thing is mastered. This principle prevails universally in all arts, sciences, trades, in all learning, conduct, religion. To be able to paint, one must paint. To know how to use a tool skillfully, he must use the tool. To become learned, he must learn. To become wise, he must do wise things. And to successfully concentrate his mind, he must concentrate it. But the doing is not all. It must be done with energy and intelligence. The beginning of concentration, then, is to go to your daily task and put your mind on it, bringing all your intelligence and mental energy to a focus upon that which has to be done. And every time the thoughts are found wandering aimlessly away, they should be brought promptly back to the thing in hand. Thus, the center upon which you are to bring your mind to a point is not your pineal gland or a point in space, but the work which you are doing every day. And the object in thus concentrating is to be able to do your work with smooth rapidity and consummate skill. For until you can thus do your work, you have not gained any degree of control over the mind. You have not acquired the power of concentration. This power, focusing on one's thought of energy and will upon the doing of things, is difficult at first, as everything worth acquiring is difficult, but daily efforts, strenuously made and patiently followed up, will soon lead to such a measure of self-control as will enable one to bring a strong and penetrating mind to bear upon any work undertaken, a mind that will quickly comprehend all the details of the work and dispose of them with accuracy and dispatch. He will thus, as his concentrative capacity increases, enlarge his usefulness in the scheme of things and increase his value to the world, thus inviting nobler opportunities and opening the door to higher duties. He will also experience the joy of a wider and fuller life. In the process of concentration, there are the four following stages. 1, attention. 2, contemplation. 3, abstraction. 4, activity and repose. At first, the thoughts are arrested, and the mind is fixed upon the object of concentration, which is the task in hand. This is attention. The mind is then roused into vigorous thought and concerning the way of proceeding with the task. This is contemplation. Protracted contemplation leads to a condition of mind in which the doors of the senses are all closed, again, the entrance of outside distractions, the thoughts being wrapped in and solely and intensely centered upon the work in hand. This is abstraction. The mind thus centered in profound cognition reaches a state in which the maximum of work is accomplished with the minimum of friction. This is activity in repose. Attention is the first stage in all successful work. They who lack it fail in everything. Such are the lazy, the thoughtless, indifferent, and incompetent. When attention is followed by an awakening of the mind to serious thought, then the second stage is reached to ensure success in any ordinary worldly undertakings. It is not necessary to go beyond these two stages. They are reached in a greater or lesser degree by all the large army of skilled and competent workers, which carries out the work of the world in its manifold departments, and only a comparatively small number reach the third stage of abstraction. For when abstraction is reached, we have entered the sphere of genius. In the first two stages, the work and the mind are separate, and the work is done more or less laboriously and with a degree of friction. But in the third stage, a marriage of the work with the mind takes place. There is a fusion, a union, and the two become one. Then there is a superior efficiency with less labor and friction. In the perfection of the two stages, the mind is objectively engaged, and it is easily drawn from its center by external sights and sounds. But when the mind is attained perfection in abstraction, the subjugative method of working is accomplished, as distinguished from the object. The thinker is then oblivious to the outside world, but is vividly alive in his mental operations. If spoken to, he will not hear, and if plied with more vigorous appeals, he will bring back his mind to outside things as one coming out of a dream. Indeed, this abstraction is a kind of waking dream, but it similarly to a dream ends with the subjugative state. It does not obtain in the mental operations of that state, in which instead of the confusion of dreaming, there is perfect order, penetrating insight, and a wide range of comprehension. Whoever obtains to perfection is in abstraction will manifest genius in the particular work upon which his mind is centered. Inventors, artists, poets, scientists, philosophers, and all men of genius are men of abstraction. They accomplish subjectively and with ease that which the objective workers, men who have not yet obtained beyond the second stage in concentration, cannot accomplish with the most strenuous labor. When the fourth stage, that of activity and repose, is obtained, the concentration in its perfection is acquired. I am unable to find a single word which will fully express this dual condition of intense activity combined with steadiness or rest, and have therefore employed the term activity in repose. The term appears contradictory, but this simple illustration of a spinning top will serve to explain the paradox. When a top spins at the maximum velocity, the friction is reduced to the minimum and the top assumes that condition of perfect repose, which is a sight so beautiful to the eye and so captivating to the mind of the schoolboy, who then says his top is asleep. The top is apparently motionless, but it is the rest not of inertia, but of intense and perfectly balanced activity. So the mind that has acquired perfect concentration is, when engaged in that intense activity of thought, which results in productive work of the highest kind, in a state of quiet pose and calm repose. Externally, there is no apparent activity, no disturbance, and the face of a man who has acquired this power will assume a more or less radiant calmness, and the face will be more sublimely calm when the mind is most intensely engaged in active thought. Each stage of concentration has its particular power. Thus, the first stage, when perfected, leads to usefulness. The second leads to skill and ability and genius, while the fourth leads to mastery and power and makes leaders and teachers of men. In the development of concentration also, as in all objects of growth, the following stages embody the preceding ones in their entirety. Thus, in contemplation, attention is contained. In abstraction, both attention and contemplation are embodied. And he who has reached the last stage brings into play in the act of contemplation all the four stages. He who has perfected himself in concentration is able at any moment to bring his thoughts to a point upon any matter and to search into it with the strong light of an active comprehension. He can both take a thing up and lay it down with equal deliberation. He has learned how to use his thinking faculties to fix purposes and guide them towards definite ends. He is an intelligent doer of things and not a weaker wanderer amid chaotic thought. Decision, energy, alertness, as well as deliberation, judgment, and gravity accompany the habit of concentration, and that vigorous mental training, which is cultivation, leads through ever increasing usefulness and success in worldly occupations towards the higher form of concentration called meditation, in which the mind becomes divinely illumined and acquires the heavenly knowledge. Practice of meditation. When the aspiration is united to concentrate, the result is meditation. When a man intensely desires to reach and realize a higher, pure, and more radiant life than the merely worldly and pleasure-loving life, he engages in aspiration, and when he earnestly concentrates his thoughts upon the finding of that life, he practices meditation. Without intense aspiration, there can be no meditation. Lethargy and indifference are fated to its practice. The more intense the nature of man, the more readily will he find meditation, and the more successfully will he practice it. A fiery nature will most rapidly scale the heights of truth in meditation when its aspirations have become sufficiently awakened. Concentration is necessary to worldly success. Meditation is necessary to spiritual success. Worldly skill and knowledge are acquired by concentration. Spiritual skill and knowledge are acquired by meditation. By concentration, a man can scale the highest heights of genius, but he cannot scale the heavenly heights of truth. To accomplish this, he must meditate. By concentration, a man may acquire the wonderful comprehension and vast power of a Caesar. By meditation, he may reach the divine wisdom and perfect peace of a Buddha. The perfection of concentration is power. The perfection of meditation is wisdom. By concentration, men acquire skill in doing of a thing of life and science, art, trade, etc. But by meditation, they acquire skill in life itself, in right living, enlightenment, wisdom, etc. Saints, sages, saviors, wise men, and divine teachers are the finished products of holy meditation. The four stages in concentration are brought into play in meditation. The difference between the two powers, between one of direction and not of nature. Meditation is therefore spiritual concentration, the bringing of the mind to a focus in its search for the divine knowledge, the divine life, the intense dwelling in thought on truth. Thus, a man acquires to know and release above all things else the truth. He then gives attention to conduct to life, To self-purification, giving attention to these things, he passes into serious contemplation of the facts, problems, and mystery of life. Thus contemplating, he comes to love truth so fully and intensely as to become wholly absorbed in it. And the mind is drawn away from its wanderings in a multitude of desires and solving one by one the problems of life, realizes that profound union with truth, which is the state of abstraction, and thus absorbed in truth, there is the balance and poise of a character, that divine action of in repose, which is the abiding calm and peace of an emancipated and enlightened mind. Meditation is more difficult to practice than concentration because it involves a much more severe self-discipline than that which obtains in concentration. A man can practice concentration without purifying his heart and life, whereas the process of purification is inseparable from meditation. The object of meditation is divine enlightenment, the attainment of truth, and is therefore interwoven with practical impurity and righteousness. Thus, while the time spent in actual meditation is short, perhaps only half an hour in the early morning, and the knowledge gained in that half hour of vivid aspiration and concentration, thought is embodied in practice during the whole day. In meditation, therefore, the entire life of a man is evolved, and as he advances in the practice, he becomes more and more fitted to perform the duties of life in the circumstances in which he may be placed, for he becomes stronger, holier, calmer, and wiser. The principle of meditation is twofold, namely, 1, purification of the heart by repetitive thought on pure things. 2, attainment of divine knowledge by embodying such purity in practical life. Man is a thought being, and his life and character are determined by the thoughts in which he habitually dwells. By practice, association, and habit, thoughts tend to repeat themselves with greater and greater ease and frequency, and so fix the character in a given direction by producing the automatic action, which is called habit. By daily dwelling upon pure thoughts, the man of meditation forms the habit of pure and enlightened thinking, which leads to pure and enlightened actions and well-performed duties. By the ceaseless repetition of pure thoughts, he at least becomes one with those thoughts and is purified being, manifesting his attainment in pure actions, in serene and wise life. The majority of men live in a series of conflicting desires, passions, emotions, and speculations, and there are restless, uncertainty, and sorrow. But when a man begins to train his mind in meditation, he gradually gains control over this inward conflict by bringing his thoughts to a focus upon a central principle. In this way, the old habits of impure and erogenous thought and action are broken up, and the new habits of pure and enlightened thought and actions are formed. The man becomes more and more reconciled to truth, and there is increasingly harmony and insight, a growing perfection and peace. A powerful and lofty aspiration towards truth is always accompanied with a keen sense of the sorrow and brevity and mystery of life. And until this condition of mind is reached, meditation is impossible. Merely mustering or willing away the time in idle dreaming, habits to which the word meditation is frequently applied, are very far removed from meditation in the lofty spiritual sense which we attach to that condition. It is easy to mistake reverie for meditation. This is a fatal error which must be avoided by one striving to meditate. The two must not be confounded. Reverie is a loose dreaming into which a man falls. Meditation is a strong, purposeful thinking into which a man rises. Reverie is easy and pleasurable. Meditation is at first difficult and irksome. Reverie thrives in indolence and luxury. Meditation arises from strenuousness and discipline. Reverie is first alluring, then sensuous, and then sensual. Meditation is the first foreboding, then profitable, and then peaceful. Reverie is dangerous. It undermines self-control. Meditation is protective. It establishes self-control. There are certain signs by which one knows whether he is engaging in reverie or meditation. The indications of reverie are: 1, a desire to avoid exertion; 2, a desire to experience the pleasures of dreaming; 3, an increasing distaste for one's worldly duties; 4, a desire to shirk one's worldly responsibilities; 5, fear of consequences; 6, a wish to get money with a little effort as possible; 7, lack of self-control. The indications of meditations are: 1, increase in both physical and mental energy; 2, a strenuous striving after wisdom; 3, a decrease of irksome in the performance of duty; 4, a fixed determination to faithfully fulfill all worldly responsibilities; 5, freedom from fear; 6, indifference to riches; 7, possession of self-control. There are certain times, places, and conditions in and under which it is impossible to meditate. Others therein it is difficult to meditate, and others wherein meditation is rendered more accessible. And these which should be known and carefully observed are as follows: times, places, and conditions in which meditation is impossible. 1, at or immediately after meals. 2, in places of pleasures. 3, in crowded places. 4, while walking rapidly. 5, while lying in bed in the morning. 6, while smoking. Smoking what? 7, while lying on a couch or bed for physical or mental relaxation. Times and places and conditions in which meditation is difficult. At night, in a luxurious furnished room. Guys, mind you when this was written, okay? Okay, I cannot say, I'm going, while wearing clothing. And I don't know if that is the term of happy clothing, but if you know sign language, you know what I just signed. When in company, when the body is weary, if the body is given too much food. Times, places, and conditions in which it is best to meditate: very early in the morning, immediately before meals, in solitude, in open air or in plainly furnished room, when sitting on a hard seat, when the body is strong and vigorous, when the body is modestly and plainly clothed. It will be seen by the foregoing instructions that ease, luxury, and indulgence, which induce reverie, render meditation difficult, and when strongly pronounced, make it impossible, while strenuous discipline and self-denial, which dispel reverie, make meditation comparatively easy. The body too should be neither overfed nor starved, neither in rags nor flauntly clothed. It should not be tired, but should be at its highest point of energy and strength, as the holding of the mind is to a concentrated train of subtle and lofty thought requires a high degree of both physical and mental energy. Aspiration can often best be aroused and the mind renewed in meditation by the mental repetition of a lofty precept, a beautiful sentence, or verse of poetry. Indeed, the mind that is ready for meditation will instinctively adopt this practice. Mere mechanical repetition is worthless and even a hindrance. The words repeated must be so applicable to one's own condition that they are dwelt upon lovingly and with concentrated devotion. In this way, aspiration and concentration harmoniously combine to produce, without undue strain, the state of meditation. All the conditions above stated are of the utmost importance to the early stages of meditation and should be carefully noted and duly observed. by all who are striving to acquire the practice, and those who faithfully follow the instructions and who strive and persevere will not fail to gather in due season, the harvest of purity, wisdom, bliss, and peace, and will surely eat of the sweet fruits of holy meditation. I'm going to leave it at there. I hope all of you enjoyed that. Meditation is really difficult. As you can hear the children outside my window, this is like a constant all day, every day kind of thing without the lawnmowers and weed whackers and helicopters, military helicopters, airplanes, military planes coming really in low, horns, car alarms, people that have a block party through their car on my block. Yeah, it's great that you drive your car, and I blast my music too, but I don't keep it on for like 40 minutes. I just don't do that. So not easy for me to meditate when I do it really late at night, because that's the best time when it's quiet. See, you can hear screeching children, screeching. I do guided meditation where somebody takes me into what I want to do. And I'm going to recommend the Reality Revolution with Brian Scott. He's incredible. I listen to a lot of his guided sleep meditation. So he has sleep meditations for 8 hours while you sleep. You start off and he'll pull you into a state of meditation, and then you drift off to sleep. Very, very good stuff. There are other types of meditations that are guided to help you if you can't concentrate. Obviously, their time and their worlds were way different. And actually being in the silence, yes, you can tune things out, but the world is very unexpected. And anything can rouse you from that deep, tense state. Very few times have I ever went into trance because abruptly something like scoffed me out of it. It's very annoying, by the way, and it's not good. So for those of you who are seeking meditation practices, I have meditation cushions. I have different types. Because of my back, I usually do them I usually do meditation laying down because my back cannot hold up for, depending on the day, 45 minutes to an hour. Sitting straight up like an arrow just doesn't happen without me tearing up. So you got to do what works best for your body and what works best for you. And those are really helpful tips, but you got to do what's in your capabilities and what your mind frame is. And you can always start on doing meditation for 10 minutes a day. When you wake up, you can have a mindful meditation. You can put music on. There is a lot of binaural beats and meditative music to sit there and focus in on what you want to have gratitude for. Affirmations, mantras, anything that will rouse your mind up in the morning. I do that quite frequently when I wake up. Of course, I have sleeping kitty over here who likes to eat and chew paper to wake me up, and also swat me. She's so smart. But when I actually wake up and I have a refreshing sleep, I'll do that. It is very important that you know, though, that meditation doesn't necessarily need to be like that. Many times, very busy people or people who are just incapable of wanting to do meditation don't realize that they're doing it by washing the dishes, getting lost in their work. Artists do it all the time. When I paint, I lose track of time, space, and everything. I'm so immense in my work and I'm concentrated on it and just doing what I do is meditation in itself. So don't feel like meditation is something that you can't do, because 9 times out of 10, I bet you're doing it all the time. When you're concentrating on doing certain things, and then your mind takes you to a nice space. You're washing the dishes and you're looking outside at nature. You're still mechanically washing dishes, unless you have a dishwasher like many modern homes do. But even still, you look out the window and you're not even thinking about what you're doing. You're out in nature and looking and being happy. That's a form of meditation, in my opinion, by the way. There's other people who say otherwise, but there's always a large spectrum of people who tell you yes and no on all these topics. My advice is find what works for you. Don't stop trying until something you try actually works. No one's here telling you to reach your Kundalini meditation. That very, very few can achieve on the first couple of goes. Even the well-mastered meditator. Just being mindful. Just being able to sit in the silence, maybe not think of anything at all. A good practice is imaging a paper, a blank white piece of paper just falling in the wind. And just doing this. And if you can focus on that for like 5 to 10 minutes, a lot of things just fly away from you. I use meditation a lot, especially with my current circumstances, because there are circumstances I really don't have too much control over. And as much as I get upset and frustrated and angry when I put myself out there and ask for help or ask for a job and put myself out there for things that I can do, that I would enjoy, I just don't want to get a job just to get a job. I want to get something that I'm going to put my soul into 110%. And I keep getting no's and rejections. But I'm not at that level anymore where I would be explosively crying, and I'm calmly just taking it as a sign that I'm going to have to suffer a little bit more. And I'm just going to have to do what I have to do in order to figure it out. And that might come through meditation. It really does help calm your mind. It really does help clear your mind. It helps you refocus. So that was an interesting section. Again, everybody's body and individually, your circumstances of your physicality are different. Some people like to lay down. Some people like to sit in a chair. Some people like to be in a chair with their feet touching the floor. And a lot of people can and cannot do that. So nothing has to be perfect. There is no perfection. Do what makes your body feel comfortable and where you're totally going to be relaxed. Letting and releasing every muscle in your body to the point where you're not going to fall asleep, but that you're concentrating and you can imagine and vision. It's most important. So with all of that said, sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope you enjoyed this little section. The next 2, I think, is the end of this book. So I'm going to save it for the next time. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you got anything out of my work, out of any of my suggestions, get light bulbs, epiphanies, connecting dots, and you would like to support my work, my information will be in the Dropbox below. Anything and everything is appreciated. I know we've all hit really hard times, but could you imagine with all this inflation? I couldn't even put gas in my car or feed myself. And I'm at that point once again. So anything is helpful, and I really appreciate it from everybody who's already have contributed to feeding Allison and keeping her internet on fund. Until next time, wherever you are in the world, day, night, afternoon, please be safe. We are in troubling times, no matter where you are in the world. If you can hermit status yourself, I would do so as much as possible. Now do a lot of shielding and bubbling of your energy. And until the next time, bye guys.